Heads in the Cloud, your source for future-proofing your business. Welcome to another episode of Heads in the Cloud, where we are talking all things digital transformation, Industry 4.0, IIoT, and we have a very special guest, Rene Gamero from Opto 22. We're so excited to have you and cannot wait to dive in with some good news about us being an Opto partner. We're so excited about that. James, did you want to get into it and go ahead and start the conversation? I'm kind of going to listen back and hear what you guys have to say, but I'm juiced.
Hey, yeah, thanks, GI. Welcome, Rene. I'm glad to have you on the podcast today. I think everyone will notice that that Joe isn't here this week. He's on vacation, so we're going to do our best Joe impression while he's gone. And to start off, I brought a giraffe with me, so we won't feel alone without Geralt the giraffe being here. So, but thank you, Rene, for coming and joining us today. And I really do appreciate it, and yeah, it's super exciting news. We've just recently announced mutually that 4IR has joined the OptoPartner program, and yeah, we've been longtime fans of the products. We've used the Epics on a bunch of different projects over the years, and we've standardized on the Groove Epic PR2 as our standard edge device for factory stack and PharmaStack deployments. So yeah, it's for us, we're happy to. Certainly happy to be a part of the program and excited to be working more closely together with the Opto team.
So great. And thanks for having me. And I'm going to do my best Joe impression. So let me try Kubernetes, cloud injectors, very, very smart. And no,
that is accurate.
That's pretty good. All jokes aside, I'm really excited to have you guys as an Opto partner, and more even before that was officially launched. Just my interactions with 4IR I've been waiting for you guys for 20 years. I'll be honest with you. One of the first conversations I had with Joe, it was about a couple of connections to ERP systems, but I remember sitting in a bus to go to the top of a copper mine, like 10, 12,000 feet. And the people there saying, if you could just find a way for your product to speak to SAP, all of this could be yours. And I've been looking for that for 20 years. And it turns out you guys have had it, and it's there, and you just flip a switch and have it all going. And because of that, I spoke with you guys for the first time, but then the whole world opened up about what your capabilities are, and it's much more than that. So I'm just happy that you guys are here. I'm happy that you guys tolerate my very simple questions, but I think I'm very comfortable with asking stupid questions, but my goal is to only ask them one time. And I think in that, anyone that's around me is able to hear some of those lessons. So I'm just excited about everything you guys do. I'm still learning about everything you're doing, just because all of your interfaces, either to cloud injections in the life sciences world, in the ERP world, it's what many of us have been waiting for, and we just don't know that yet. So to be a part of that conversation, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate the great feedback. We're really excited about all of this digitalization space and the maturity, and more importantly, the end users starting to realize the opportunity that exists out there, and how the tools have matured in the space. If I go back early in my career, I can remember quite a few high 6 and early 7-figure jobs just to do simple ERP connectivity and rooms full of people trying to deal with some of the complexities of things that honestly really weren't that complex. It was more just challenges with interoperability between systems. And now that we've moved into this more modern world of APIs and tools that are removing some of the complexity from these highly complicated systems, it just shortens time to value. It creates a new level of opportunities for folks that maybe it was out of reach for before. So yeah, we're super excited about everything that's going on in the industry, and hoping to latch on to some of the momentum around the growth of data and digitalization, and looking at the Opto products as an enabler for that in many different scenarios. My personal experience with the Epic has probably been the strongest part of my experience with things, and its ability to do so many things well is is unprecedented. I don't know of another PLC out there, and you know, if anyone's listening to the podcast and can tell me, I'd love to hear it, but I haven't seen it, that can do ignition edge and ignition and you know, node red and code assist or you know, local HMIs or web-based. I mean, it's amazing, the pack control and pack view. It is just an incredible piece of technology that I honestly think has been a bit of a secret, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's just, you know, the loyalty that a lot of companies have had to the big automation companies over the last, you know, 20, 30 years, but the opportunities have certainly been flowing recently. So I'm excited.
No, and you listed basically all the features I love talking about. But yeah, I think because we're a private company,
probably missed a few too.
a few of them, but you know, you hit on all the key ones. The point of the matter is, it's a company of engineers and it stayed private. So the original founders had companies, sold some off, and saw what that did to people. So it no longer was a company to produce widgets to provide value to the industry. It became, you know, you got to meet your quarterly numbers now. And that completely changed the face of it. So Opto 22 has been that beacon of, no, we're going to keep it private. We're going to do what's right by people. And doing what's right by people isn't what's going to shoot you in the billion-dollar stratosphere in the short term, because we're talking about Opto's it's only 48 years old. But in that time, it's really had, and the reason I brought that up is because if we were subject to those stakeholders, to those make your numbers this quarter, there's no way we'd put all of those features into a controller. They're like, what are you talking about? This is 10 different products you have here. You make a code assist one, you make this. So when you look at it, and when we compete in those spaces, people look at it and say, well, your PLC is 3 times the price. And it's like, well, versus, you know, it's not just the PLC. That's like 10% of what it is. You have a firewall built in. You can plug in a monitor, keyboard, and mouse in here. And now this is your operator workstation. Everything else that you mentioned, you have databases on board. You can ignition edge. You have all of these capabilities to it. And they still kind of nod their head like, yeah, okay, fine. They buy the other system, put it in a box, and then they have to buy a separate firewall. Now they have to buy a separate industrial PC. Now they have to buy all the components together. And then they're coming back to us sometimes years later. And those are usually our best customers, actually. The best customers, some of the best customers we've lost those projects once or twice because I don't know if there's only so much that you can do with saying all of these things that are included that I'm just such a pleasure to hear you appreciate. From other places are like, I don't know if we need all that. I think we need something a lot simpler. And so if more people came at it from the approach of like, I have all these tools to get my project and to make my customer happy.
Yeah. So do you think
be golden?
Do you think right now that some of the recent momentum and some of the change that's been going on in the industry is because of things like the cloud? Because I mean, from my perspective, I mean, we've built a business model around how we manufacture and automate inside of the cloud environment or hybrid cloud environment. Are you seeing that as well in your business?
I think just cloud, absolutely. Just cloud, I think, is number one right now because it's ubiquitously known at all levels of at all technical levels. So I can speak I belong to a local Rotary Club, to the Las Vegas Rotary Club here. So most of them are retirement age, and they understand that, okay, that's how I explain what I do for a living. I sell hardware equipment that puts factories on the cloud. They can understand that. At the same time, I have friends of mine who are in the cybersecurity space or cloud engineers that run circles around me technically, that we can have that same type of conversation as well. So people are understanding the cloud from a ton of different perspectives, even for, people my younger brother's age that have a t-shirt that says, the cloud is just someone else's computer. I mean, it's starting to be as part of the culture. So absolutely. And as more people become educated as to what their piece can be in this cloud culture future, everyone want and the fact that you guys help us make it so much easier to integrate those components. One of my favorite parts of your presentations are always your architecture diagrams that show that pretty clearly.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I think when I look at, I actually compare the journey that I think the industry is on back to early in my career, because I've been around for a few years, to virtualization. I remember distinctly having conversations with clients early on using the analogy of, hey, are you going to buy, one central air system for your offices, or are you going to have a window unit in every single one? Because buying a server for every single application is kind of like buying a bunch of window units that you now have to maintain and deal with, and they're less efficient than you would have if you have a big rooftop unit that supplies the whole zone. But conceptually, it took a long time for folks to really understand and appreciate what even just moving to a virtual machine versus a bare metal server installation would save them. I think the savings and the interoperability and the availability of data moving to more cloud-centric or cloud-native technologies is way, way more valuable, and provides a whole lot more simplicity in the long term. But I think the industry at large is on that same journey again, where some folks are going to have to be early adopters. Some folks are going to wait till it's more mainstream. And I mean, from my perspective, I can clearly see what the benefits are and what the long term is going to look like, but not everyone's there yet. And that's I think just part of educating the marketplace.
And you reminded me of something said too about, seems like a kept secret. I think one of those reasons is we've been knocking on all of those doors. We've sat in those conference rooms of these gigantic Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies. But the issue is it's a new product. It's a private company. It's not one of the big 800-pound gorillas. So essentially people feel like they have to stake their career on this. It's like, this all looks like it has everything I want. Now do I stake my career on installing it and running it? And I don't blame them. The majority of people have said no. And it's the same reason of, in past lives, other salesmen that I've been friends with, selling computer parts, saying, no one's ever gotten fired by buying IBM back in the day, back in the days. You just didn't get fired. Why? Because you did what everybody else was doing. So if you buy what everyone else is buying and that project fails, you have a ton of different, fingers you can point. The heat is off you. But if you buy the Opto gear and something doesn't work, which, by the way, we have excellent free support and we would get it working, but you have to think about it from their perspective, is they have to take that leap of faith. If it doesn't work now, it's them, and they have a family, they have, so it's been a lot of that fear. But in each of those situations, the people that understand it technically, really understand the technology, see it for what it is. We're just a tool. Can you do what we do with other equipment? Yes. Will it be harder, more expensive, and more cumbersome? Also, yes. So that's what we do. We get all of those tools, make it as easy for you as possible just to buy one item and go to the races. And the people that can understand it there, it takes knowing more intimate technology than a lot of people will show at those conference rooms. But I think we're getting there, and the cloud's doing that too, as far as democratizing all of those really smart software guys. Because at the end, those really smart software guys are working on the cloud. So if you can toss your data there, all this magic is starting to happen, and that value of the cloud really showing itself. Yeah.
And it's funny you talk about kind of the traditional 800-pound gorillas, and the majority of my career was spent working with big organizations that they were hard spec, hard standard on those software and hardware platforms, and they've got a big mountain to climb, and it's not the same for everyone, but there's a lot of technical debt in the software products. So there's big acquisitions going on. There's a lot of software rewrites, a lot of work that has to be done to make things more flexible, more cloud centric or cloud native. I feel like if you look at kind of, I'll call it like the ignition sphere of different partners and companies that are all kind of connected and working in that ecosystem. I feel like that the growth, the capabilities, and kind of how things have progressed in the last couple of years is a truly compelling case, because You see companies that would have never even entertained it before now moving to spec on hardware and software from vendors that were considered non-traditional a couple of years ago. So I think the opportunity is there, and the fact that those vendors and Opto in particular has such great tools for natively connecting to cloud, I think it just creates a lot of potential value for folks that one of two things: either were big enterprises that were too slow to move and couldn't potentially take it on because it was too big of a leap to make.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the folks that couldn't afford it before, the folks that, hey, I want to tie my ERP system in, but I don't have 400 grand to spend on a project to do that. Now with the technologies and the tools that are available, you don't have to anymore. You have the ability to do small pilots, low cost startups, things that are allowing you to gain the value of some of these things that were reserved for the big guys before, big guys and gals, I should say. But you just couldn't reach them. Now you can.
That's a great example. And speaking a little to the Ignition ecosystem there, I was with Opto I interned with them in 1998, and then I came on full time in 1999. But then at 2010, I went somewhere else, and then I came back in 2021, so last year. So I missed like a good decade of all of this. So one of my biggest shockers was when I came back. They said, "Oh yeah, we have this partner, Ignition now, and they're like us, except software." I'm like, that seems like a great match. One of the most surprising things about this was in those last 10 years, and I was just talking about this with someone else earlier, I have had partners that I've worked with for years that I never knew the end customer's name. Like I never knew who the company was. Like we would always work in these kind of nebulous kind of projects where I would never know their name. Now with Ignition, usually that's the first or second question. Well, who's the customer? Blank. And that's part of the normal conversation. And that just goes to show the collaborative spirit of the Ignition community, which to me is refreshing, but still shocking to me. I'm like, this is still something. And it depends. I do a lot of international work, so it depends on the country and how much they let you know. But still, as domestically and throughout the Americas, that just goes to show you that we're all here at the table. We want to succeed together. Your success is my success. And honestly, that allows you to grow because you don't have those bad habits. And a big shout out to you for using the word technical debt. I'm going to use that a lot more for the next year. I'll give you full credit.
I appreciate that, and some of the systems that have that technical debt, I mean, they're operating on code bases that are 20 years old in some cases. So yeah, technical debt is a great way to describe that unfortunate scenario, and it's unfortunately not a fast or an easy sort of thing to dig out of, especially when you have a big install base. So yeah, I can imagine that, and just hypothetically, there's probably a lot of folks that are under a lot of pressure inside of some organizations right now, rebuilding or re-architecting or looking for the next acquisition to allow for things to move forward in a more future friendly way. But it's definitely, I mean, probably the biggest thing that changed, that forced that, was we all got iPhones and we all got Android phones, and all of a sudden, my dad is really upset about this, that nothing comes with a user manual anymore. So he has been very vocal to me that he wants user manuals. I just bought him a MacBook recently, a couple months ago, and he's like, "Well, where's the book?" And I'm like, "It doesn't come with a book. I'm sorry, that's not how things work anymore." But people have gotten so used to native, user friendly, intuitive interfaces that it's no longer acceptable to be deploying interfaces that require a 50-page user's manual just to be able to figure out how to run a piece of equipment or to stop or start a motor. It's a fortunate and unfortunate thing at the same time, in that Inductive, in their foresight and the way that they put together their products and the invention and inclusion of perspective as a part of their modules, made them into someone who really was leading the industry in that regard. And a lot of the other folks are scrambling to catch up still.
Or Inductive University, making that as easy to go through and click through. That was my introduction to Ignition. And
Yep.
I feel like kind of the opposite of your dad now, just because one way my wife can convince me to do anything is with 3 words. There's an app. So if anything we buy, I'm like, I don't know, honey, would that be like? And there's an app. And it's like, okay, fine, we'll try it. And then as I'm downloading the app to try it and figure it out. And there's so much stuff now too that I'm using even in my everyday work life, that all depends on how easy is it? Can I point and click my way through this? And from my perspective, it's out of, be completely honest, it's out of being lazy. It's like, no, is there a YouTube video that I can watch that can show me what I need to do? But also because my experience is going to be my customer's experience. So if I'm going to go through it and have a difficult time, I don't wish that on anyone. But meanwhile, if I can go through Inductive University, learn how to do, learn how to use perspective, or learn how to start to use perspective, learn how to do all this, and I end up with a great certificate at the end, then that's something I definitely want to encourage others to do. So, oh man, the presentation that Joe gives on SAP, where he's showing the arrows and connecting that, I'm looking at that and saying, how many people haven't stopped their project because they couldn't get here, spending 6 or 7 figures? And it's glad you guys are here.
We appreciate it. And I can tell you that the Joe personally and me personally, we were involved in several of those painful projects in our history. So that's part of where that perspective comes from for us. Is we've unfortunately and fortunately for kind of the future state, is we've actually had to go through some of those things, and it helped us to be able to articulate, and build out what we think is a easier way to do things. So yeah, again, we're excited, knowing that too, we've got ICC coming up. That's going to be a super exciting thing for us, for you guys. I know I think we're going to be next door neighbors is what I've heard.
That's what I mean. All I know is the biggest brains at Opto 22 are crunching away because of the booth that they're going to have next to you. So I've been told nothing, and I think they just don't want me to spoil it, but I know it's going to be big, and I know it's going to be fun to experience. So
cool.
So if you can tell me something, I can go and, tease them a little, like, oh, James told me you're going to have a, floating giraffe.
I had to sign a non-disclosure. I'm not allowed to talk about it. So
okay, good.
Be a live giraffe. I'll just tell you now. A live one, you get rides, you can feed it. You have to sign a waiver, because if it bites you, that's not our fault. Yeah.
Do you guys remember April the giraffe? My wife watched April the giraffe, which was, it was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. It was a giraffe that was supposed to give birth, and there was a live feed, and she watched it for 2 weeks straight. And anyway.
Did it give birth?
Eventually,
just leave it there.
Eventually, April did give birth, but like there was, my wife was glued to her phone watching this live feed of this giraffe just walking around its pen for hours and hours and hours a day, and I was like, man, I don't understand.
And speaking of the giraffe, so Rene, if we get you your own shirt, right, your own Opto 22 with the giraffe shirt, will you rock that on one of your Opto minutes?
Is there an app?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
All right, then it's a done deal. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But we appreciate you so much, Rene Gamero here from Opto 22, a great guest. And I have to ask, are you okay with coming back another time and just continue this conversation, because it was fantastic?
Anytime. Yeah. Look,
beautiful.
Whatever you guys need, I'm here for you as much as I feel that you're certainly there for all of our customers. You're amazing.
We love it. Thank you. So you guys listen right here to the Heads in the Cloud podcast with Rene Gamero from Opto 22, as well as James Burnand. Make sure you guys check us out, 4ir.cloud. Heads in the Cloud, your source for future-proofing your business.